a former coach, and you can see him on Sunday on NFL Game Day. Thursday night, you can see him as they continue with the Titans and the Steelers. Thursday Night Football comes your way this week, as it does each and every week, and he joins us now. Mooch, what's happening?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. How you doing on this Monday? What would you like to delve into first, the good, the bad, or the ugly?
Let's do ugly.
That's the Giants. So that's the Giants. That's the Giants. So let's start there. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I it's tough to watch, and I believe me, I'm an Eli Manning fan, and respect the Giants organization like crazy. And they're having one of those years that any organization would consider its worst nightmare. And so losing to a team that hadn't won any games here in San Francisco, that was a tough one to swallow. And yeah, I know the talk is about, where do you go from here? Is this rock bottom? And so they've got a lot of decisions to make with the organization. They're in a tough division, man. I mean, the Eagles aren't going anywhere anytime soon. The Cowboys, they both have great young quarterbacks. The Redskins have to decide what to do with Kirk Cousins. So this division is going to be very, very competitive, like it's always been. And now the Giants need to figure out how to compete going forward.
In your mind yesterday, did Green Bay show you that they're going to stay in this hunt until they get Rodgers back? Was that big a win, or was it just because it was the Bears?
Yeah, I was happy for Brett Hundley. He's a good kid, and he threw his first touchdown pass, and it was a nice back shoulder throw. Looked like Aaron Rodgers. And, but the Packers have some things to do, too, and it's not just Aaron Rodgers. I think they have to get better on defense. And, that division is pretty good. The Vikings are really surprising. You're talking about this NFC, Mike. All four division leaders, all of them, the Eagles, the Vikings, the Saints, the Rams, none of them made the playoffs last year.
Yeah, and they're all 7-2 or better, so that's impressive.
7-8-1.
Yep.
And it's like, wow. So it is possible to turn things around from, not so much last year to, hey, they got a chance to even get a bye in the playoff chase this year. So, the Packers are trying to stay alive. The Lions are trying to stay alive. The Lions have there's no such thing as an easy schedule, but very favorable schedule the Lions have. They had to come from behind to beat the Browns, but they got a chance to win 10, 11, 12 games if they beat the teams they should beat. So the Packers are going to be struggling and fighting their way back in this thing, but right now they would be seeded number 9. They're not even in a wild card spot just yet.
Atlanta won the game they had to win yesterday. Won it going away. They finally came up with a big effort. They're 5-4. Carolina probably win the night, go 7-3. New Orleans is 7-2. Atlanta has 5 games left in the division. The only game they played is at Carolina and lost. Everything's in front of them. They get the Saints twice. Yeah. They got 5 games to play in this division, so it's all right there in front of them.
It is. What a game. We all knew the Cowboys were going to be without Zeke. And then when Tyron Smith, the left tackle, was out, that proved to be an even larger factor.
Really big.
Over there. And,
yep.
That was Adrian Clayborn with 6 sacks.
Yep.
And, they had tried Chaz Green and Byron Bell, and nobody could block anybody. And so they've got some issues right there. They got to get him back healthy. But, you mentioned that NFC South. What a surprise the Saints are.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, and they're doing it with defense and running the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just Drew Brees. They ran for 300 yards yesterday. They took a knee at the end and got 298. And then they're playing better defense. They've improved the defense like the Patriots have improved their defense. It's like, all of a sudden, boom, they get it, and they're playing very well. Dennis Allen's done a nice job. And the Panthers, yeah, they should win again tonight to go to 7-3, but don't count out the Falcons just yet.
I won't. I think those games will be great. They
control their own destiny.
And as you know, Atlanta-New Orleans has always been a big rivalry, and now this year, those will be big games.
I just thought something, the Falcons hadn't been looking like the Falcons. And then, yesterday for Veterans Day weekend, they put the initials on their helmets of fallen soldiers. and actually met some of the families, and man, they look motivated, they look emotional, and boy, did they play a complete game. I was really impressed how they handled the Cowboys.
We're talking with Steve Mariucci, and you talked about the top of the NFC. The AFC is really decide what you like from the big three: New England, Pitt, Kansas City. Kansas City beat New England. Pitt beat Kansas City. New England owns Pittsburgh when they play them. I mean, Brady owns the Steelers. I mean, his numbers there are unbelievable.
They're going to have to go there in week 15.
And they own them. I mean, he owns them, though. It's amazing what he does to them. But those three teams, I think anyone could win at anybody's place. But those three have proven themselves to be the class. Do you give Kansas City and Pitt equal chances with New England, or is it still New England as the team to beat?
I think it's New England as the team to beat, even though the Chiefs went into Foxborough week 1 and beat them over there. Chiefs now have 3 losses. But I do agree with you, Mike. It's a 3-horse race in the AFC. Very capable teams with the Chiefs, Patriots, and Steelers, all with veteran quarterbacks, the whole thing. Titans and Jags and Bills and, all the others are fighting for playoff spots, but I think they're the next tier down. It's the Chiefs, Patriots, and Steelers. I can't wait for that game in the week 15 in Pittsburgh. But, Big Ben is playing better. Juju Smith-Schuster. I love that name, Juju Smith-Schuster. And he's a good kid. I got to know him. But, they seem to be a very complete team. They've won 4 in a row now. They're 7-2. All their Super Bowl teams, all 6 of them have been 6-2 or better, just like this one has been. And so don't count them out because they're playing good defense. Now they got a couple of guys hurt yesterday in their secondary, but they're going to be there towards the end, you bet.
Do you believe in the Rams yet?
Oh, my goodness. I don't get a vote, do you? But Sean McVay is going to get the coaches.
Oh, easy. And you know what? They look like a different team. You can see sometimes, Vermeil, when he first went to Philly, there's certain times when a guy goes into an organization and just completely transforms the organization. He has done that with that team. They're crisp. They run on and off the field. They're crisp in every form of the game. They look like a football team. I mean, he's a young guy, but he has done a heck of a job.
He has, and part of a head coach's job is to hire a staff. And hiring Wade Phillips, who has been a head coach.
Yep. Very smart
on defense.
Very smart
for an organization.
Yep.
That was a good move, and Wade is getting the most out of all these number 1 draft choices that they've had on that team, and they're playing good defense too. I remember when I was coaching the Niners, and we had beaten the Rams 17 times in a row, 17 in a row. And so we lose Steve Young and Garrison Hurst, and anyway, we go there to play, and this kid named Kurt Warner beats us in St. Louis, okay? And Bill Walsh, who was our president at the time, and, of course, Bill is good friends with Dick Vermeil, and so am I. He made the comment in the newspaper the next morning. I read it. That Rams team looks like a Super Bowl team to me. And it kind of made me mad because, it's like, whose side are you on?
Right.
The Rams or us? They beat us once, fine. But you know what? It's a little bit like that right now, this Rams team.
They look like the real thing.
Could they be a Super Bowl team? It's not just a young bunch of guys flying around. They are legit. They run the ball. They throw the ball. They play defense. They're well coached. They're confident. They're relatively healthy. They've got a chance to go pretty deep in the playoff. They keep this up. Now they got to play the Seahawks, but they keep this up. They're going to have a home game in the playoffs, and then you never know what's going to happen.
And Philly the same way. I actually think that the Rams are more complete than the Eagles are, even though you got to be impressed by what the Eagles are doing. And the quarterback's the MVP. Hands down, he's the MVP. But I just think the Rams look like they're doing it in every facet of the game.
Yeah, well, I don't know that the Rams are better than the Eagles. I'm an Eagles fan. But it's kind of fun to watch Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, the number 1 and number 2 pick in the 16 draft.
The next generation is what they are, as is McVay. They're the next generation of the league.
They are, and we need that. We absolutely need that. We need good young coaches and good young quarterbacks to come up and replenish, because Brady's and the Roethlisbergers and the Phillip Rivers and the Alex Smiths aren't playing forever. And so it's really good for the league to have these good young superstars coming up.
It is, and it's tough when you lose guys like Luck and Rodgers. Any season when you take Watson, we take these quarterbacks out of the league, it hurts. It hurts. It really does. It hurts the product a lot.
That's why, I'm on that player safety advisory panel, and we do everything we can to make the game safer for everybody in practice and training camp and on game day, the whole thing. But some people say, oh, you're putting a skirt on the quarterback.
You have to.
Well, you can't hit him. You have to, because if we don't have our star quarterbacks, everything suffers, not just that team, that fan base, the league, television, everything. It's hurt. It's hurt not to have an Andrew Luck. It's hurting not to have an Aaron Rodgers. And so we've got to continue to protect all of our players, especially the quarterbacks.
Talking with Steve Mariucci as we head to the month of November where you decide things in this league. You see teams start to take shape. And you've seen this league take shape the last 2 weeks. You can see the teams now starting to separate themselves. I mean, that always happens in November. You see it right now. By Thanksgiving, you have a pretty good handle on it. So these next couple of weeks are when you learn. But, you start to get the teams really start to separate. You can see that they have in the last 2 weeks really started to move away from each other.
Yeah, and that old cliche is who enters into November healthy is really going to be a factor. You got to make a run, and you see a team like the other night, the Seahawks had 6 guys hurt, including Richard Sherman, and another guy from the Legion of Boom who's hurt, and so that's really going to be a factor. We just talked about hurt quarterbacks, but other guys are finding their way to the training room, and that's what coaches do constantly is try to monitor the health of their team and take off of practice or reduce it, whatever they have to do to get their teams to the games, because you got to have your best players playing these games to win them.
What do you think? What do you think about your Thursday night game? Is Tennessee ready to step up and play at Pittsburgh in your mind, or not yet?
Tennessee at 6-3. They've got the old exotic smash mouth offense, and they're getting better. They got the good young quarterback too. Mariota is finally looking healthy, and DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry, and they're playing decent defense. But they're gonna play the big boys, the Steelers in Pittsburgh, which is going to be, this is a battle of 2 teams that have won 4 games in a row each. It's 2 teams that are in first place in their divisions. It's very important wins. Steelers for trying to acquire the bye, Tennessee to hold off the Jaguars. I mean, it's a very important game. I can't wait for this game.
What a gift the Jaguars got yesterday. They were dead in that game. San Diego figures out more ways to lose games. They are in every game, and they lose more games in the worst ways than any team in this league.
Ever. And last year they lost, how many, like 8 by, I don't know, last possession or whatever.
I mean, you give the ball to your secondary back, and he fumbles the ball when the game's over. I mean, what are you doing?
You know what? I love Phillip Rivers. Love him to death. He's feisty. He fights you to the very end. I just wish Phillip Rivers would, be on a team that has had more success to end his career, and then they're playing in the StubHub Center and, that kind of thing.
Right.
But gosh, is he a feisty guy, man. I love him. I love his demeanor, and he's they don't have him. I don't know what they have over there in San Diego. I shouldn't say that. They've got some good players, but they do find some crazy ways to lose games.
So with Steve Mariucci, are you coaching the bowl game again this year?
The Under Armour game, you better believe it, against Herm Edwards. Take their ankle. Yep.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, you like doing that, right?
You know what? I love getting to know these kids, these Under Armour All-American kids. They go off to college, and you can watch them. They enter the NFL, and we still follow them. We text them. We talk back and forth. And so, heck, in that Under Armour game, Mike, I mean, it's getting 10 guys a year drafted in the first round.
How about that?
This is the cream of the crop. So many of them, not all, but many of them end up in the National Football League, and to start, staying in touch with them from when they're 18 years old is kind of fun.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. We'll talk again. Thanks, Steve.
You bet, Mike.
All right, Steve Mariucci.